Very good morning to you. Thank you so very much for staying with us on Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am William Ofwewe, and it feels great, and we count it a privilege to welcome you to Global Morning. It's midweek, and Juma is the person who loves midweek the most. But much more importantly, she prefers the weekend, especially when it rains on a Friday morning before she gets to work. Juma Manson, so good to see you.
It's great to see you.
I know you thought we had a little secret between us, but
we don't.
I had to put it out there.
You had to spill it out.
It's my weakness. I can't keep on the secret.
I completely understand. Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm great.
To each and every one of you out there, it's great to be here. Good morning. And yes, it is a midweek and the time to just... we're trying to understand. You're just trying to get, into the mood of the public holiday, which is Thursday and Friday, by the way. And indeed, but for us, we do not have public holidays because we're working. But it's fine.
No, you didn't have to say that straight. we share your concern.
You share my concern, but it's fine though. It's what we do, what we've signed up for.
Right.
All the same, it's a beautiful day. Let's make the best out of it and see what goodies it will definitely bring.
Right, of course, why not? So let's keep our fingers crossed. The holiday is upon us. Officially, we should be saying Ramadan Kareem to all our Muslim brothers and sisters, not just in Nigeria, across the world, especially those who take out time to connect with us here on the program and across all of our other programs on Global Television. It's hard to hold a smile long now, given what's happened in Borno, Maiduguri in particular, the last, 48 hours or so, yes. And as it stands right now, there are even more concerns beyond that. But just for those who have not been following, there had been attacks, bomb blasts in Maiduguri. We understand there was one at the gate of University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital. Yes. That came really close to home because that's the heart of the city. Yeah. And then you had another one at the popular Monday market. All right. It's crazy because once you hear there has been such an attack in a market, it's better imagined than experienced or even witnessed because you can already figure out the crowds, the people, commercial activity, the human presence and stuff like that. So it just gives you quite a clear idea as to the number of people who may have died. Yes. And to make matters worse, we're now hearing that there's a chance terrorists have dispersed themselves across the city in such a way that they want to see how much they can ramp up casualty numbers. So the idea is to exterminate as many people as possible. So the Nigerian army is raising that concern, and we hope that the military authorities have been able to swing into action all in the bid to counter this very what I like to call satanic move. Very
satanic move. And for me, Unimed, I attended Unimed. Yeah. It's like home, when it comes to home of peace, amazing individuals there. I have friends till date who are
still in touch with.
Still, of course. And of course the reception that you get from these individuals, the Kanuri parts and all of that, amazing individual. I would tell you, I have good friends from there, but it's just unfortunate. And when you hear these areas, I know these places close to the Monday market. I know these places. I have been there. I've stood there. I've bought things in the market there. It's just unfortunate that we keep going back and forth with this issue of insecurity. And of course, it was told by the day when you hear bomb blasts in 2000 and during President Goodluck Jonathan's time, back to back. That was the in thing. You see suicide bombers, girls, boys. There was one that happened in Jaji. Jaji, the one that happened in the church and the mosque.
As in Kaduna State.
In Kaduna, yes, that killed a lot of individuals. Yes, civilians and all of that. It's just unfortunate that we are back to this again. It's really scary because it takes a toll on one psychologically because you're scared to go out now.
Especially for people like you who know the city. Because even people who are far away feel very emotional about the story. So you can imagine how worse it is for those who have lived there.
Know these places that we're talking about. It's there and it's very close to, it's just unfortunate that this is what it is now. And I hope the military will do all it takes, all its power to stop this from happening again, because 108 is a lot of individuals who have lost their lives. It's no, 23 people.
23 died, 108 injured.
Injured, yes.
Varying degrees of injuries.
Exactly. So it's a lot. 23 is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. I keep telling you, life is irreplaceable. It's just unfortunate that. But I hope the needful is done soon. I hope this menace is curbed as soon as possible. Now that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed that the service chiefs
should
will relocate to Maiduguri. I think that's a smart move. That's the best move, and hopefully this particular menace will be solved as soon as possible. Though it might not be immediate, but at least it will take time, and at least it will douse the situation.
It's quite painful, but what can we say? Let's continue to monitor. But if you have followed the news in the last couple of months, you will see how that governor of Borno State, Zulum, had also talked about how that more than ever before, the state of insecurity in his state is becoming more concerning. In fact, that was when, given the story that we also did on Ethiopia Global Television at that time, he asked for increased military presence, especially in certain local government areas where these terrorists had found so strong a foothold. Whether that situation has improved the last couple of months or not, we can't tell. However, given what we have seen the last few days, it is very clear that Borno State needs help as quickly as possible. Not just help for those who have now been adversely impacted from a humanitarian standpoint, but to help solve this problem, deal with the root of it as quickly as possible. We will also be talking about politics on the program today. We have quite a number of political parties that have now planned their elective conventions and congresses just to help again address the leadership issues within their folds. How's that coming? How does it make a difference for the better in terms of political party administration in Nigeria and the ultimate impact it has on not just our electoral process, but democracy and governance ultimately? Well, after this break, we'll bring you all of that and more. Please do stay with us. The APC, for example, by the end of this month, 25 and 27th, we understand will be having its national convention, elective convention, and Congress. And other parties have theirs too, even though we know the one that the PDP or a faction of the PDP held last year, November 14 and 15 in Oyo State, exactly, had now been declared null and void and of no consequence whatsoever by a law, court of law. But all of that said, it is clear that political parties are now more than ever before concerned about their own internal issues, their own internal mechanisms, and their leadership. Because some of them have said, look, the current leadership in our party is not delivering desired results, therefore we need to rethink that. But you see, for the average Nigerian, and of course for citizens generally, the concern is not even who the parties elect or how they elect. It is, how does the leadership within the different political parties affects our democracy? Because we have said here time and again that if political parties can't lead themselves, you keep seeing 2 factions, 3 factions, 4 factions. One person is loyal to Juma, another group is loyal to Uyi. Within the same party.
Exactly.
The same party wants to field candidates for governorship election, presidential election, local government election, and what have you. Legislature and all of that. If you can't deal with your own relatively smaller problems in that party, how then can you lead a country of over 200 million intelligent, resourceful, forward-thinking human beings?
Well, exactly. We've always said that if you're having fractions here and there in your internal fractions in your political party, how do you expect to lead Nigerians and of course Nigeria? So I like the fact that everyone is going back to the drawing board to see how they can actually, come into an understanding. Let's try and fix this first, because you understand that it's an internal problem. Once we are done with that, because we do not need individuals who are loyalists to Uyi, loyalists to Juma, and in the same party. That means we are not thinking together. We are not in unison. So there is a fraction there. And of course, with all of these, how do you expect us to vote for such a political party when you cannot even figure out what is going on with your own party? You cannot come come together, have a compromise and understand that, okay, this is what is the way forward. How can we try as much as possible to unite, which is very important. Have one voice, not different voices, and someone telling us that, no, I think you're doing it wrongly, I think you're doing it this way or that way, or you feel you're not aligning with the constitution of the party, and this one is quoting another subsection or section or something like that. So it's better everyone is now coming together. It's a reorientation, starting afresh. How did we get to this point? What is our goals, prospects in this political party? Coming together to disagree and at the same time agree, not for us now, but for the benefit of the party that we started together, and for the benefit of the individuals in our minds that we want to represent, and we want our party to, of course, be the ruling party. So it's very important that politicians are becoming aware, which is good. And of course, there is a strategy around political parties now. And I think as Nigerians are beginning to see that with this convention here and there and coming together, I think it's a step in the right direction. Let's not judge anyone, like I always say. For someone like Jumai Rekia Ibrahim Manson, I do not care who emerges as the president, or as long as you're able to move us forward. You're happy, I'm happy, and
do the right thing by the people.
Do the right thing by it's democracy, for the people, by the people, and all of that. So just do the right thing, and basically, so we can just forge ahead, because I always say there is light at the end of the tunnel.
There has to be light.
Exactly.
We need to keep being optimistic.
This is a step in the right direction. Going back, the reorientation, go back and re-strategize and understand what happens. Let's have an understanding. Let's sit on the table. Let's commune. Very important.
I think it's quite important. And it's also concerning that most of these political parties, virtually all of them have their respective constitutions.
Yes, they do.
But you're wondering, when it's all said and done, one person flouts the provisions of that constitution, all right? Another person commits a couple of infractions here and there, and then you have disagreements in the party.
True.
And then you bring one person from each of these, if you like, warring parties or factions to have a conversation, maybe on television, for example. The person tells you, we have a constitution that says blah, 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 blah. You bring the guy from the other camp, he says, we have a constitution that says blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
And hold on a second, gentlemen. Are we talking about the same constitution for the same party? Or is it possible, is it possible, as weird as that may sound, that your party has multiple constitutions? Of course, the answer is obvious. It is one constitution.
Yes, it is.
But what we have had, amongst other factors, which is very disturbing, is the fact that you've had the big man factor playing out in most political parties.
I agree.
I'll give you an example. So I know of a guy who used to be a commissioner, right, in a state. The guy, I spoke with somebody very close to him, and he said, look, one of the challenges that guy had was that even as a commissioner, he had thought he would stand for election to probably secure a seat at the House of Representatives. But his political godfather said, hold on a second, I've got a daughter in the US, she'll be coming to town. When she comes, she's the one that will run for that seat, stand for election for that position, not you. In fact, when my daughter comes, you're going to be the one to give her that orientation she needs, take her around, familiarize her with the political figures in the city, just walk her through the process. You see, when you have that sort of system and it becomes entrenched, which has been the case for the most part in 1999, you are going to have to be, for those who are within these political parties, between the devil and the deep blue sea, or a rock and a hard place. I don't know which is better. But here's the point. The question has been, how do we demonetize our electoral process, our elections, our democracy? That's not to say we won't talk about money. That's not to say Juma will not print posters and banners and billboards. It's to say that you don't necessarily give the ticket to we because he has deeper pockets, because he has all the money, it's the money bag. It has to be
a big man.
Exactly. It has to be that due process is followed, so that we don't continue to see these very, extremely embarrassing situations where political parties end up in court. Sometimes INEC would even not recognize them on account of their own self-inflicted crisis. But again, time will fail us to go into all of those in detail this morning. Juma and I will be engaging a gentleman who will be walking us through some of these issues, especially as it has to do with Nigeria's democratic process. In the meantime, we're taking a break so we can join Ramsey Enoch Agbo to bring you Heart to Heart Inspirational.
Hello and welcome to another moment of Heart to Heart Inspirational. Let's talk heart to heart a little bit, because a lot of people have not been able to bounce back after the last time they failed. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Welcome to Heart Inspirationals. Failure is a feedback and not a funeral. I want to say that again because of people who failed. Some people fell and they remain on the ground. They never got up again because of what they feel people around them are going to say. But then failure is a feedback. And that's why some people tell you all the time that whatever happens, all right, there is a lecture from every lesson. Whatever happens to you in life, there is something that you are meant to learn from it, either positively or negative thing that you need to take cognizance of and be watchful as you move on the journey of life. So I just want to tell you today that failure is a feedback and not a funeral. What kind of feedback did you get from that last failure? Have you even tried anything at all? Have you experienced failure before? If you've not experienced failure before, it means you need to try harder. Because on this journey of destiny, people who are successful today are people who have failed a number of times and they got up on their feet, learned from their mistake, and their mistake became a stepping stone for them. And of course, they are where they are today. Why? Because they never allow that failure to become a funeral to their dream. What am I emphasizing? As a matter of fact, let's normalize something today, all right? Let's normalize something today. A failure, you've heard about it all the time. Okay, this person is a failure, that person is a failure. People assess their counterparts, their neighbors, their brothers, their colleagues differently with different perspectives. Some persons already have been tagged as failure, and that has been affecting a lot of people. But then, have you accepted that you are a failure? That somebody told you are a failure does not make you a failure until you accept that you are a failure. All right, not because it feels good, yeah, but because it is necessary. Sometimes, it's risk. It's risk. If you have taken a risk before, and of course, it didn't go well the way you think it was going to go, and you failed, it doesn't mean that is a funeral. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. I was speaking with someone a few days ago, yeah, and we're talking about a particular business, and the young man told me, now I am successful. But then, during my wilderness experience, when I was in the workshop, nobody knew anything about me. When I was failing over and over and over again, I lost money several times. I had to stay indoors and think of the next thing to do. He failed severally until he said, no, I am not going to allow this failure become a funeral. My dream is not going to be cut short by this failure. And he stood on his ground. Consistency. I must always emphasize consistency anytime I come up to speak to anyone on Heart to Heart, because it is very important. If you want to succeed in life, then consistency and discipline is very important. But the bottom line is this: nobody ever succeeds without first stumbling. Yes. You stumble, then you stand again. Even every little child, before a child starts walking, you stand them up, you see them, they walk a little bit, they fall. They walk a little bit, they fall until their leg gets stable on the ground. All right? And you see them walking firmly. Then before you know it, they start running. The same thing is applicable to life. So failure, as a matter of fact, is not proof that you can't. All right, it's not a proof that you can't do it. It's proof that you tried. It's a proof that you tried. When you fail, it means you tried and you failed. It doesn't mean that's the end. It reveals what doesn't work and refine what eventually would work later. That's what failure does. Anytime you fail, you know that, yes, this one does not work. Let me try the other one. It gives you a focus. It makes you know that, yes, if I go this way, I'm going to fail again. So I need to do something else. It's only a fool that do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. If you are doing one thing the same way all the time, you get the same result. You need to apply technicality, strategy, discipline, excellence every time. Whatever you do, let that touch of excellence be in your head, all right? So that when you fail in one thing, you try doing it the other way. But then don't allow that first, second, third, fourth failure be your funeral. Let your dream and your vision and your talent not be buried because you failed. Because that failure is trying to refine you, is trying to build something in you. What do you have to do? I want you to know that failure, what it does is that it reveals what doesn't work and refines what eventually will work. But you need to have this mentality. Every setback is information. If you are willing to learn, yes, that's what it means. Every setback that you've had in the past is an information. Because there is something you need to learn from every setback, from every failure. Everyone throwing stones at you right now is because they know you are going somewhere. Let me tell you the truth. We have a lot of friendly enemies these days. Some people are smiling with you, but then they are not interested in your success. What they say behind you, if you hear it, hey, but then that shouldn't deter you. That shouldn't deter you because you have a destination. So every setback is information if you are willing to learn, because most people don't fail because they are incapable. That you failed, it's not because you are incapable, but because you are going somewhere, because you are dogged, because you are rugged, because you are determined, because you are focused, because you have a dream, you have a vision, something you are pursuing and something you want to get. You have a target. So when people like that fail, they fail because they don't stop. But if you stop anytime soon, it means that failure has gotten to you. Let me give you an illustration. For instance, a GPS recalculates when you miss a turn. It doesn't shut down. All right? Failure, in other words, simply means it's time to adjust. Anytime you fail, the message is, no, I need to adjust. This principle, this procedure, this formula is not working. I need to adjust. There is something I need to do so that I don't fail again. That's what it means. Anytime you fail, there is a message. It is telling you it is time to adjust the procedure. It is time to re-strategize. That's what it means. All right, so you don't need to abandon your journey because you failed. There is a practical mindset shift that you need to have, and this is it. Number one, stop attaching shame to failure. Yes, stop attaching shame to failure. Some people, when they fail, they feel shy. Oh no, I'm not going to get on that stage again. They will laugh at me. No, I'm not going to do that business again. People will laugh at me. People will mock me. The same people will celebrate and want to identify with you if you are a success. So there should be a mindset and a mind shift for you. Extra lessons instead of self-criticism. Stop criticizing yourself because you failed. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people with other people because you failed. That you failed. Failure is not a funeral. Stop burying yourself in shame and criticism. Try again. Make it better. Make it wiser. Make it stronger. That's what it means. All right? Failure is tuition paid for future success. That is a quote that I'm bringing to you now. Failure, I said, is what? Is tuition paid for future success. But if you don't pay, if you go to school now, all right, 100 level, you need to pay a tuition. In 100 level, you get to 200, you pay another tuition before you can get to 300 level. In every of this level, there are tuitions to pay. If you want to change levels in life, don't be scared of failure. If you are scared of failure, you will never try anything good. So what do you have to do? Keep pushing. Don't bury your dream because of one mistake that you made. I'll keep saying this. Learn, rise, and move forward. Don't worry about what people are saying. Don't worry about the situation around you. Don't think, oh, I have failed. I don't need to try it again. Keep trying. Change the strategy. Become wiser. Failure make you wiser. Because you walk through this way and you fail, you apply this strategy, this technique, this principle, this formula, and you failed. You will now need to re-strategize, use another formula, all right, until you get to your success, until you get to what you want to achieve in life, all right? So you need to know that anytime you fail, it's a signal that you need to turn. You need to do something again. You need to re-strategize. You need to improvise, come up with something new. As a matter of fact, failure is not the best option for you. So what you have to do? Try as much as possible, right, to be sincere in everything that you do. Because if you want to please people, it will be disastrous. You don't need to please anyone, all right? You don't need to please anyone. It is when you're thinking about pleasing people that when you stumble, you say, oh, I've disappointed this person. I've disappointed even people who really love you, who want you to be successful. By the time you fail, instead of them condemning you, they will come and encourage you to do better. And that's the reason you need mentors. That's the reason you need people to talk to per time. All right? You need to talk to people. See, if you are embarking on a project, I emphasize mentorship all the time. I was speaking with a friend a few days ago, and I told the person, if I want to do this thing you're doing now, it is going to be express for me. It's going to be easier. I may have hitches. There might be some times where you have losses or maybe failure at some point, but then you have people to ask questions. I have someone to ask questions. Hey, I got hooked here. What do I do? Even the disaster is not going to be as disastrous as it would have been if you never have anyone to guide you on this journey of destiny. You really need people, okay? Because as your association determine your acceleration in life, okay? And your friends, you need to be careful with the kind of friends you have. If you have a bad friend, it is disaster. If you have a good friend, it means you have a shoulder to lean on, a shoulder to stand on and be tall so that you can get to that success that you are running after, that you are pursuing. Yes, congratulations, everyone. You are a success going somewhere to happen. Don't allow anything stop you on the way. Not failure, not criticism. Don't bury yourself because you failed. Failure is not funeral. Bye-bye for now and have a beautiful day.
All right, you're welcome back, and I hope you enjoy that segment, Heart to Heart Inspirational with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Hope you were well inspired. Now, at about this point, it is the newspaper review segment, and we'll be starting with the first paper of the day, and the first paper is the Punch newspaper. Above the nameplate of the Punch newspaper, it says, Eid al-Fitr, security on high alert nationwide after Barnoon blast. FG declares holiday. Sultan asks Muslims to observe moon. And of course, next it says 2027, Tinubu ministers seeking office gets March 31 resignation deadline. And that read you will find on page 12. Now, beside the nameplate of the Punch, it says refineries spend 5.7 trillion naira on foreign oil despite naira for crude policy. And that's on page 14. Now, the star story on the Punch newspaper says Borno bombings, killings spark fury, defense chiefs move into Maiduguri. And we have three riders there. It says Nigeria won't succumb to terror. Tinubu vows as 23 killed, 108 injured. And it says governors condemn bombings, demand action. Police clear blast sites, families search for missing relatives. Very sad story there, very heartbreaking story. It's very sad, really. And on page 22, it says Nigeria secures 746 million euro UK deal to modernize ports. And on page 4 and 5, on the Punch, it says Mohbad family's lawyer questions labs capacity for DNA testing. And on page 7, it says hardship, Labour pushes 154,000 naira minimum wage. Okay. And those are all the major headlines on the Punch newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with the major issues making rounds. Next is the Nigerian Tribune. Over to you, We.
All right, thank you, Jumai. Top right corner with a picture of President Bola Tinubu. It says Tinubu directs ministers, other political appointees who want to contest in 2027 to resign by March 31. Again, that's based on the Electoral Act now. Judges have no power to order lawyer to kneel down in court. That's credited to the Nigerian Bar Association. That came out on Monday from the legal proceedings. During the hearing of Shore's case in court at the Federal High Court, we understand that his counsel, Barrister Marshall Abubakar, had spoken to the judge in a tone that the judge had considered rather rude.
Oh,
all right,
really?
yes, and called him, called his attention to it and asked him to kneel down.
Kneel down.
Yes, but the gentleman, the lawyer, Shore's counsel, gently appealed to the judge to say that would breach his fundamental rights.
Of
and
course.
The judge said, well, you sound better now. You should have sounded so earlier. And that was how the matter ended. But then, once it gets to the social media in particular,
Of course.
there's a spin to it.
spike.
And then the whole thing spikes and people start to react differently to it. So it's not as much a big deal as people want to make it. But I think the perspective the NBA is talking from is to say that, look, no judicial officer, whether a magistrate or a judge, has the prerogative to ask a lawyer to.
Yes,
of course,
exactly.
there's the there's the provision for contempt, right? You can charge with contempt, but
yes.
you don't bring in that sort of, if you like, martial law. Apparently, that's what the NBA is saying. I'm not a lawyer yet, so
Yeah, but of course, that's the thing when you cover these bits, when it comes to, like, I know scale of justice,
Right.
it has to do with law, courts.
And stuff.
I think you can. Are you sure you're not a lawyer?
I've got a motivator in Juma. She will pay my tuition for 5 years minus law school. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's move on, everyone. Nigerian Tribune still, the big one says, outrage over killings in Maiduguri explosion. Page 2 is where you have those details with several riders with it. Police confirmed 23 dead, 108 injured. Juma mentioned those figures a while ago. Tinubu directs security chiefs to relocate to Maiduguri, says country won't succumb to fear. ADC tells president to return home. Northern governors call for urgent action to end terrorism. Change your strategy, Atiku tells Tinubu. Cancel any planned trip to visit affected communities. That's Peter Obi urging President Tinubu. Give priority to security, not 2027. Undume. Eid al-Fitr, federal government declares Thursday, Friday public holiday. Court fines the FCC 500,000 naira for seeking multiple adjournments in a Emefiele trial. Then there's some health headline here. Cats may hold the key to treating human cancer. That's according to scientists.
Okay.
That's on page 16. You can read all those details and be properly guided. Trump says U.S. doesn't need NATO support in Iran crisis. ADC government to designate kidnapping, banditry, terrorism. That's according to the chairman of the party, David Mark. Again, another party that's also embattled right now. Those are all your headlines from the Nigerian Tribune today. Do well to read up details for yourself. Our next port of call is the Daily Trust.
All right, now the Daily Trust newspaper, below the nameplate on page 6, it says FG declares Thursday, Friday public holiday. And on page 6, it says resign before March 31st. Tinubu tells appointees seeking elective offices. And on page 24, it says Tinubu and the imperatives of cooperative federalism. And the star story on the Daily Trust says 30 days after ICPC fails to arraign El-Rufai. And below all of that, it says Maiduguri blast, army warns of multiple suicide bombers in Borno. And that read you will find on page 5. Now, below the foot of the Daily Trust, it says here, fresh controversy over Salah Dabar in Kano. And that's on page 26. On page 26 again, it says bandits kill 15 in Kastina local government. And on page 6, it says U.S. Director of Counter-Terrorism resigns over Iran war. And basically, those are all the major headlines on the Daily Trust. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with issues making round. Next, we have the Vanguard.
All right, top of the name masts. The headline reads Nigeria's oil output drops 9% to 1.483 million barrels per day. Terrorists threaten to kill 32 abducted Kaduna villagers over 30 million ransom. That's quite pathetic.
Yes, it is.
On page 7 is where you can read all those details. Tinubu's UK visit spurs investment deals, job creation. No judge has power to order lawyer to kneel in courts, NBA. Then there's the big one with Akika. Maiduguri explosions. Survivors recount ordeals. Service chiefs relocate to Borno. I heard a loud sound and my neck started bleeding. Victim recounts.
Really sad.
23 dead, 108 injured in multiple seaside attacks, says Borno Police Command. Terrorists deploying multiple seaside bombs into Maiduguri, that's according to the army. Tinubu condemns attack, asks security chiefs to relocate to Maiduguri. Northern governors Undume condemn attack, call for urgent action. Kayamo orders probe into Akure Airport's intrusion. Eid al-Fitr, federal government declares tomorrow, Friday, public holidays. Middle East crisis, U.S. counter-terrorism director resigns over Iran war. Iran's national security chief, Larijani, others die in Israeli strikes. Well, this gentleman who resigned as director of counterterrorism, the U.S. says, well, he did that because he can no longer provide leadership on that level in the face of this war between the U.S. and Israel on the one hand, and then, of course, Iran on the other.
Exactly.
And he has also urged President Trump to have a rethink. He has said, quotes and unquotes, change course. In other words, don't go further with this war.
Yes, please.
But apparently, it doesn't look like that's what President Trump is listening to at this point. Right. All right, two more maybe headlines from the Vanguard before we're done. It says 1.16 million students benefit from 206 billion naira NEL fund loans. 2027, resign by March 31st. Tinubu orders appointees seeking elective offices. Those are all the headlines you've got from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. To do you a lot of good to read of details as we move to the next one, the Nation newspaper.
All right, now the Nation newspaper, above the nameplate on page 4, it says NEL Fund gives 206 billion naira to 1.16 million students in 270 institutions. And on page 3, it says setback for budget passage with Senate shift of resumption. And we have here on page 3, says, support Tinubu, don't waste your vote in 2027, says Soludo. And on page 5, it says, Monarch buys drone, hires 118 security personnel. And below the nameplate, it says, terrorist attack, service chiefs relocate to Maiduguri. And the rider there says, police confirm 23 dead, 108 injured in multiple explosions. The next rider says, IG visits blast scene and says victims. And below that, it says security tax, social welfare, top on ADC manifesto. And that's on page 27. And then it says here, Thursday, Friday are holidays for Eid al-Fitr, and that's on page 3. Now, the star story below that says, ministers, others with political ambition get March 31st quit date. And one of the riders there says, directives issued to create level playing ground for aspirants. I think that's a step in the right direction.
It is.
Really. And then below that on page 2, it says, King Charles, Queen Camilla hosts Tinubu wife at Windsor Castle. And it says, President, First Lady to arrive on carriage, cultural event, banquet to hold. And the sports segment there says, CAF strips Senegal of AFCON 2025 title, awards it to Morocco, and that's on page 31 for sports lovers. And basically, those are the major headlines making rounds on the Nation newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy to be well abreast with some of these headlines making rounds. Next, we have the Daily Sun.
We begin with the one adjusting the nameplates. Here it tells us, quits office before March 31. Tinubu orders appointees with political ambition. Kaduna bandits threaten to kill 32 abductees if 30 million naira ransom is not paid. Borno terrorist attack. Police confirm 23 dead, 108 injured. PDP ADC Obi Undume condemned Tinubu. President vows country will not succumb to fear, directs security chiefs to go after attackers. I have issues with Oyetola, not Tinubu. Adeleke. Federal government urges oil industry operators to accelerate short-term production gains. And that's very crucial now in the light, in face of this, Iran war, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you can read up those details on page 26. Here it says, DSS arrests suspected gun runner in Cross River with 832 live ammunition. Doing what with those? Well, you would find your answer on page 5. Soludo sworn in for second term, promises to do more for Anambra. And the writer says, Shetima, Obasanjo, Jonathan, others attend inauguration. Picture here speaks. You see the former presidents, Olusegun Obasanjo, Goodluck Jonathan, and then in between them and the governor, Soludo, you have Vice President Kashim Shettima. That's a full cycle on the headlines from the Daily Sun today. Please read details for yourself as we take a look at this day newspaper.
All right, now this day newspaper, and above the nameplate it says UK-Nigeria bilateral deal at an all-time high of 8.1 billion euro. And the writer says Zenith opens Manchester branch, okay, and training overtime launches 2.4 million euro Lagos factory boosting local manufacturing. Yeah, that's a step in the right direction. We should try as much as possible to patronize local manufacturing. I think it will go a long way in serving some of these inflations that we have here in Nigeria. It will really, it's key. Now, below the nameplate of this day, it says here, Trump's counter-terrorism chief resigns as Israel announces killing of Iran's security chief. And The rider reads, number of U.S. troops wounded in war against Iran crisis to 200, and that's Trump. U.S. no longer needs NATO. Iran's new supreme leader reject de-escalation proposals. And I think Iran does not want to stand down either. And then moving on now to the Star story, it says, Tinubu mourns as Atiku, Saraki, Amechi, Kwakwaso condemn Maiduguri attacks. Yeah, that's a very sad one. And it's on page 8, but the writer there says, President directs service chiefs to relocate to state. Shetima, no religion sanctions killing of innocent citizens. And I completely agree, none whatsoever. And it says here, PDP ADC Governors Forum laments carnage. And basically that is it on this day newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with major issues making round. And the last paper, and Uya Bomofwegbe will run us through, is the Nigerian News Direct. Over to you, Uyi.
All right, so we begin with the star headline. Says military raises alarm over possible surge in suicide bombing attacks in Northeast. NUPRC moves to data leasing phase of 2025 licensing round. Those details are on page 3. Maybe just 3 more here. It says Eid al-Fitr, federal government declares public holiday on Thursday and Friday. And the last one, 2027, Tinubu sets March 31 deadline for appointees seeking elective positions. On page 5 is where you find those details, and that's how we call it a wrap on the newspaper review segment of the program today. As always, we encourage you to do well by reading up details for yourself. That way you stay guided, and then you have perspective and context to every story. We would like to also remind you that Global Television, as a broadcasting media outfit, or the team on Global Morning, does not in any way contribute to these headlines or their details. All we do is just break the headlines exactly as published by their respective publishers. Up next is Social Buzz with Ogochukwu Mobuno.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction, Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables better than the best. At Witchtech
Media Speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And the issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Good morning, Nigerians and viewers around the world. It's time to look at buzzing issues making rounds on social media. And this one, we are taking this one from a very public, display of affection. We like to say PDA though, but this from Tonto Dike, who thanked her ex-husband Olakunle Churchill for making her a mom. Tonto Dike is trending for her caption on her Instagram page when she celebrated herself on Mother's Day. The caption reads thus: "The only man who has put a child in me. Thank you, Olakunle Churchill, for making me a mom." Then hits back at critics saying she's doing too much. All right, that's the video we're seeing there. Okay. This video is a little bit sensitive for me though. I'm not, it's not going down well for me, to be very honest. Well, let's take a look at some comments from social media as regards this particular video. And the first comment is coming from Momo Uchendu. And Uchendu says, "She was bashing this man and you all were happy. Now she's appreciating him. Allow her to celebrate him and thank him. You people hate happiness and peace." I don't think it is hate. I don't think it's hate. Let me speak for myself. I love Tonto Dike, of course, and I love this new Tonto Dike. I love it. But I think we should also respect boundaries. You know that this man is married. If you allow him celebrate you as a woman and, of course, as a mother of his first son, there's no problem. But tagging him alongside celebrating yourself on Mother's Day is a bit of a pick-me attitude. That's for me, though. Well, second comment is coming from Ima, the film girl. And Ima says, "Well, if he was single, this won't be bad. But he's someone's husband. Respect boundaries." Just exactly my point. Respect boundaries. You cannot just put up, a statement like that and you expect people to be okay, not to talk about it, saying, "Thank you for making me a mother." Come on. I understand that she wants to appreciate her husband, but it's a little bit of looking for trouble on social media or trying to create content on social media. All right, the last but not the least comment is coming from Kelechi Kashmir, and Kashmir says, "All I see is a woman stylishly taking her home back, getting another sibling for her son. This season go too long." It's a long season indeed, but nobody's ready for all of that drama, to be very honest. Nobody is ready for that. So for me, I feel like the caption wasn't needed. The caption that was, she used for that particular video wasn't needed. If she celebrates herself, of course, she can go ahead. But telling her husband or her ex-husband at this point, "Thank you for making me a mom." This man is married and he has children. The last time we saw Olakunle Churchill and Tonto Dike get back together and start co-parenting, for King Andre. We saw the wife come out to talk about it, Rosie Mayer, we saw her trend in that period, and people started saying, "Oh, you hate, you jealous, you're this and that." But I must tell you the truth that if a woman senses anything wrong, she will speak out. Except she does not want to speak out, but as a wife, you definitely have an idea if your husband is no longer cool with you, or if you are no longer cool with your husband, because you are the one in the marriage with him. So if she's speaking out, then, that means something is happening. And if Tonto Dike is dropping a comment like this or dropping, a caption like this, it feels like, she's just trying to cause a scene somewhere where there is no scene. So I feel this comment or this caption was just too much and it wasn't needed for that particular day. Celebrate yourself and everyone will be happy, okay? All right, so that's all we have for you today on the show, Social Buzz on Global Morning. And I am Ogoch Kumob, now be leaving you in the hands of Jumai and Uyi as they lead us into the discussion section of Global Morning. Good morning once again, Nigeria and the rest of the world. Bye for now.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Thank you so very much, Ogochukwu Mobuno. Just to quickly remind you that our big conversation today has to do with the political process in Nigeria, especially as it has to do with political parties themselves. As it stands right now, Nigeria has, been here in terms of the Fourth Republic for virtually 27 years. That's fairly a long time. However, there are those who believe that this democracy is young, it's nascent. That's the term always adopted when we do an assessment of this democratic process. As a matter of fact, there are people who call it an experiment. So they say we shouldn't put so much of pressure on ourselves, given that we've not been here long enough to have achieved or attained the same height as developed democracies like the United States, for example. However, the challenge with that is for a country that has some of the most brilliant minds, for example, blessed with vast natural and human resources, are we not supposed to have moved past these points? That's on the one hand. On the other hand, political parties are now also being evaluated to look at what their role should be in a democracy such as we have right now. And had two parties essentially leading the country. At the point, it was the PDP for 16 years. But between 2015 and today, it has been the All Progressives Congress, the APC. However, in what ways specifically have the leadership styles of these political parties impacted our democratic process? That's our conversation on the program. Of course, we're going to get guests on the show to help us find the context and perspective so we understand what we're dealing with at this point in time. There have also been concerns around the number of political parties that we have in Nigeria. We need some delisting. Others say the more have more political parties. After all, they say democracy is a game of numbers. So, any intention to register a political party?
Please don't put me on the spot.
No, it's a simple yes or no answer that is required.
No comment.
Okay, so Joy looks suspicious to me right now.
Really?
But we'll keep an eye out on you between now and 2031 to see what your political ambition is.
Well, let's just say we don't know what the future holds, basically.
Right.
But for me, I think I do not know if I want to delve into that.
The murky water politics.
People say, and I don't know why a cameraman is always putting the camera on me when I'm talking politics. Please, Destiny, behave yourself.
Maybe they can see through. They can see through your intention to know that you have an ambition.
No, not at all. Funny enough, but the thing is, there was a guest we had, and he says he found himself in politics. Like he's a farmer, and the next thing you know, he found himself, and he did so well when it comes to his own constituency and all of that. I don't think you can predict these things. You can just wake up one morning and you just find yourself having that passion, loving your people, and knowing that, in this aspect where I'm from, I can actually do better here. I am a voice for individuals to reckon with. I am the mouthpiece of individuals who look up to me in my particular locality or something. It starts small, and the next thing you know, you start growing in the world of politics. But I don't know.
Right. Well, we'll keep checking in with you.
God knows everything.
We'll keep checking in with you. Right. So I've heard politicians, most of them, they've been governors. I've heard how they tell their stories about how they found their way into politics. In fact, there's one that's particularly interests me. I'm not going to mention him now because at the point he had a case with the FCC. Okay. But his story is a bit interesting. He says he was in a swimming pool somewhere in the US, and then he gets a call from my people to say it's time, you have to come be governor.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know is the man becomes governor. The rest is history because he goes on to serve 2 terms of 8 years combined.
Yes, he did.
All right, so you have all of those. You have people who say, I was doing well, I was running my business, I was doing this NGO work, I was in development, I was not even interested in politics. I've never been a member of a political party. But then one thing leads to another. Somebody taps me and says, you've got what it takes. Come be local government chairman, go to House of Assembly, go to Senate or whatever it is. And the next thing you know is it becomes an inroad for them. And they find their way in politics. And again, the rest is history.
Yeah, I think this sometimes it plays out.
It happens like that, right?
It happens. Some you might be very passionate about it. Like, of course, we know. Let me refer back to President Muhammadu Buhari of blessed memories,
Right.
where he had the passion.
Persistently.
Exactly, and of course, we know how it played out, and unfortunately, he got the position of becoming the president of Nigeria. Some individuals are very passionate that way, and yet they do not see the light of
They
day.
keep at it.
But they keep at it.
Yeah, and the goal may also be achieved.
Exactly, and there's some who are just in their own space, just doing their own thing, and they tell you, "Hey, we want you to come and, come for this particular position. We
Right.
want you. We think you will do well," and you'll be surprised how well they will deliver. Like I say, it's a two-way thing. They will deliver,
Right.
but there are some that will not deliver at all, and they will tell you, "I told you before, I wasn't cut out for politics. I wasn't cut out for service.
It's not my thing.
It's not my thing," and now that is why. So it's a two-way street. You just don't know what this will bring. It just springs up on individuals, and you just find yourself there. Sometimes you take the bull by the horn. Sometimes you just let the bull go and say, "I beg, I don't have stress for this."
Right. Okay. Let's take the bull one horn at a time now. Up next is our conversation focusing on Nigeria's political system and their internal structures. Do stay with us.
Oh, well, something was not right.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debates, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe. Hearings now by a lawyer, a politician, someone who would rather be referred to as a nation builder. Barrister Idris Waziri is also the founder of United Tribes of Nigeria. Idris, would like to appreciate you for coming on the program.
As always, thank you very much.
Good morning.
Great.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so let's begin. 2027 is, for many people, the countdown has begun now, just a month away. I know from a purely ideological standpoint, you're not very comfortable with the, if you like, calibration of our political parties right now. Because you have also proposed a couple of things that could be done differently in that regard. But let's talk about what the reality is today. Political parties are gearing up for 2027, no doubt about that. In fact, some of them already have their elective conventions and congresses lined up and what have you. Can we use that as a basis to discuss the, if you like, viability or otherwise of political parties in this country? Because you can't separate the health, so to say, of a political party from the quality of democracy we practice.
So once again, thank you very much. And you are absolutely right. I am in total disagreement with the system of governance in Nigeria, and that stems from the political parties. Now, obviously, let us start from the position of the law. Section 221 is the bane of this whole problem because it mandates that for you to participate in democracy, party politics, elections, whatever, you must belong to a party. That is the foundation of our problem. Now, where you have weak parties, you end up with a transactional democracy. Where you have strong parties, you end up with a strong institutional democracy. Okay? So we start with what is the problem. The problem is these weak parties, and they stem from three major problems. You have structure, you have leadership, and then you have the internal crisis that stems from the lack of those first two, right? So where you have structure, if you remember, everybody kept ridiculing Peter Obi when he came out on the Labour Party. Oh, you don't have structure, right? We ended up with a Labour Party that gave a good run against the PDP, right? If in 2015, a party that came out of nowhere, APC, ended up defeating a party that was here for 16 years. All of these stem from the fact that parties are run by individuals, okay? So where you have an individual, you have the party is based around that person, and once that person is gone, so for example, PDP at the time was, for lack of a better description, being led by a weak leader, hence the collapse of a party that was in power for 16 years.
Who was that weak leader, if you don't mind me asking?
Sorry?
Who was that weak leader, if you don't mind me asking?
Obviously, it was Goodluck Jonathan at the time. That was the president of the day, right? So hence, like I said, there you have a collapse of a party that had been in power for 16 years. That is the problem when parties are ruled by individuals, right? So again, what you have is a collection of interests rather than a community of ideas, okay? And that is where I say there is no ideology. So all the root problem of all these problems, these three factors, is that there is no ideology. You understand? So where there is no ideology, you have no direction. You understand? Right. So now we come to the internal crisis of every party, okay? And we start with what is true leadership. True leadership is, one, being a party, you are the custodian of that party's constitution, okay? You mentioned me being the founder of the United Tribes of Nigeria. That in essence is my manifesto. So in the United Tribes of Nigeria, the party is at the top. You are voting not for an individual, not for a particular position, you are voting for the party. In South Africa, it's the ANC. Right. You understand? It doesn't matter who the person that is the current leader is, you are voting for the party. So in China, for example, you vote, the Communist Party is in control. Whoever the leader is irrelevant. That's why they're able to make this person a life president, because he achieved so much. He was driving the party's ideology, their mandate, their policies in the right direction, and they said, you know what, we don't need to change you. So if the country were to, for example, vote for my mandate, my party, the manifesto that we're delivering to the people, we are not so much about who the president is. If you deviate from what the people have given us their mandate, we will remove you. In Hausa we say, we'll tuge you. We'll just and replace you with somebody else and announce it to the people that this is the new president, that carry on with your mandate. Do you understand? Now, again, what is the second aspect of a true leader? It is, after custodian of the party constitution, it is being a neutral arbiter. People criticize Buhari during his term for being too passive in that particular role. So unlike Obasanjo, for example, who would dive into every internal crisis and dictate where the party's decisions should go, someone like Buhari was more passive. Criticize that, don't criticize that, either way you could call him a neutral arbiter. He would allow the party to solve its own problems. Do you understand? And there you have, so there is now what you have, that's true leadership. And at the end of the day, you mentioned it earlier on, I believe I call myself a nation builder because at the end of the day, that's the only way where you can build a strong nation. Take the PRP, for example, People's Redemption Party, right? Till today, that is the oldest party in Nigeria, but till today, there is no doubt who the leader of that party was, even though he's dead and long gone, Aminu Kano, because he set an ideology. So you find that members of the PRP party are followers of that ideology. They are diehard members of, it's like the ANC, like I said again, in South Africa. That's where we get it completely wrong in terms of our democracy and this party-led direction. So when you have, what we have today is power brokers and people who allocate tickets. How can we move forward when we have that?
You know, talking about mandate of a party, let's talk about the constitution now. You said we do not look at the individuals or the leaders in that particular party. We look at the party itself and, of course, what it brings to the table. Now, when you hear internal crisis in political parties, we know, but to mention a few, they bring out this constitution and says, this constitution says this in this section, this subsection, and another individual in that same party comes out and says, well, this section says this from the same constitution, and you wonder between yourself, is it the same constitution or a different constitution? How would you explain all of that when individuals have internal crisis and they bring this same constitution to actually defend what the issue is in that particular party?
Well, obviously, every law is subject to interpretation, right? So a simple law that is read based on literal interpretation, you will have a different interpretation, I would have a different interpretation, right? So first we start with the Nigerian constitution itself, like I said, so I mentioned section 221 earlier on, then we have things like the Electoral Act, okay? So where you have, there's Nigerian constitution and then there's party constitution, right? So when you are unable to enforce the rules within your own party, the outcome is inevitable. Internal conflict, right? So where are these internal laws? So let's leave the Nigerian constitution aside. That one is clear. We all have to join the party. Now let's come to the individual parties themselves, right? The reason why there is so much internal conflict is threefold. You have lack of a transparent, your leadership is in question. There's a vast number of Nigerians that question the legitimacy of President Tinubu's win, for example, right? So if the country is doubting your leadership within your party as well, there's bound to be that kind of internal wrangling, right? Then you have the issue of, so we have a lack of transparent leadership. Then you have zonal discrepancies, right? There's always an issue, for example, APC. The big problem in 2023 was, should it be going back to the south or should we just practice democracy? Whoever wins, wins. Do you understand? That zonal thing was I think it was created by PDP during their 16 years, and everybody has seemed to just adopt that as the natural norm. But that is in a clear deviation from what democracy actually is. That means it's not so much about who wins an election, it's about let us zone it to so and so. Do you understand? So those are the kind of issues that always cause internal conflict. And like I said, if you don't have, if you can't enforce your own internal rules and regulations and maintain peace and stability within your own party, then how in God's name are you supposed to lead us as a country? You can't even keep your own house in order. So, and again, that all stems from you have no ideology, you just have a community of people who are just after their self-interest. So today, if my interests aren't being served here, I am jumping to another vehicle, not a party with not an ideology. So in America, for example, everybody is basically a Republican or a Democrat, and their ideologies are absolutely clear. We're either for guns or we're not. We're either for abortion or we're not. Now, whether I'm here for guns, I can be liberal about it or I can be right-wing about it. But I am in favor of guns. Nobody should take away my guns. Do you understand? So in Nigeria, we don't have such lines to define who we are as a people. Do you understand? And when you have weak parties, you have weak institutions, you have a weak nation, and then ultimately directionless.
This issue of ideology is becoming a bit, if you like, blurred. Blurred in the sense that I've spoken to people just like yourself, they say point blank, Nigerian political parties and politicians lack ideology 100%. A handful of persons have also told me that that's not necessarily right, because by their own estimation, whatever these political parties are doing right now is on the basis of their ideology, for whatever it's worth. What ideally should be the ingredients, for want of a better word, of an ideology? If you want to say, for example, PDP has an ideology, the Labour Party, ABGA, and the others have an ideology. What are the factors we should look at and say these are the, if you like, the ingredients in the ideology? For example, there are those who say PDP, APC, all of them, they are the same. The only thing that you can say separate them is interest at every point in time, especially around the election cycle and what have you. You have drawn examples from the ANC in South Africa. We talked about the US, for instance. How do we establish this conversation about ideology?
Again, they can sing we are about ideology all they want till they're blue in the face. The reality of the matter is we, the people that matter, we cannot point to a direction other than these are capitalists. So again, when you say there's no difference between them, there is really no difference between an Atiku and a Tinubu. They are both capitalists. Do you understand? They believe in the selling of our national assets to cronies, political allies, and privatization, for example, right? And so let us look at the global doctrine of ideology. In the world, you're either a capitalist country or you're a socialist country or you're a communist country, right? These are the three basic parameters that one can be described to be to follow. Now, again, you come down to, okay, so like you said earlier, there is really no difference between all of them, irrespective of which party they belong to. They are all about how can we share this national cake? It is never about the people. Do you understand? So irrespective of whether you want to call you have an ideology or not, the fact that you are all there as a community of people about interests, not a community of people about ideology and what are we using to drive the country forward. So there is no long-term plan in Nigeria. Even if you do a proposal, as long as that proposal is not short-term, if it is medium-term, long-term, they will throw it out the window. They are not interested in it because they cannot see the immediate benefit for them. Do you understand? So in terms of politics, where a party lacks an ideology, one, lacks a long-term plan, two, there is just a recycling of issues. So it's let's take APC, for example. 2015, they came in, and the slogan was, change Idole, we must have change, right? Everybody was tired of PDP, so the sentiment then was for change. They read it, they used it, and they won. Just like Obama. Nobody believed that a black man could be president. Sure. So his slogan was, yes, we can, yes, we can, yes, we can, right? Today, I am criticized as, you must be a madman. How can you, with no money, be thinking about removing these people? I am not looking short term. They say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. I ask people, do you know Malcolm X? Do you know Reverend Martin Luther King? You'd be surprised, most people don't. Surprisingly, I was shocked. I asked this question yesterday, and the person said he didn't know them. Really? I swear to God. And I was like, oh my God, you see, now I understand why people think I am left field. Because they don't understand the struggle. The fact that you have to sustain this thing, irrespective of how difficult the journey may seem. It's not about me. It's about me inspiring my generation to say, you know what, we have the numbers to beat anybody that has billions in his account. right? All we have to do is wake up. That's why I say
the mindset.
Thank you. That's why I say my movement is called the Awaken Movement. Wake up to your power, and this nonsense, this mess that we're in ends immediately. And it's not about, do you have the machinery, do you have the money to challenge these people? No, it's that the democracy is a game of numbers, right? Where the majority have their way, the minority can have their say, right? So again, it's about a mindset, it's about a shift in our, Bob Marley said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. What I hear every time I am faced with this this backlash is, oh God, you have been mentally enslaved, and you need to remove yourself from that.
Would you say it's brainwash?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let us talk about the issue of godfatherism, for instance. Now, we know it is the norm of the day. It's an individual who is high up there who says, I want this person to be governor, or
like we said, yeah.
that is it.
Power brokers,
exactly,
ticket allocators.
like you said. How does that affect leadership when it comes to the area of political parties and, of course, doing the right thing at the end of the day?
Well, like I said earlier, there's a distinction between leadership and true leadership, right? Leadership as we have today are power brokers and people who allocate tickets, people who manipulate delegates. Do you understand? I've heard politicians who boast that, you went for election here, meanwhile the delegates have been hidden in one hotel room somewhere. How is that democracy? Do you understand? How is that true leadership? You understand? So I keep saying this repeatedly whenever I'm here, that we accept the abnormal as normal. So while these electoral malpractices, which they are in reality, carry on and they have been accepted by the norm. So again, I find this interesting. I sit down with some members of the opposition today, technically opposition, right? And I listen to them as a neutral person, right? So I haven't yet decided my party. All I know is this is my manifesto. This is what I am going to declare for the Nigerian public to decide on, right? But I'm listening to these opposition people, and at one point you were in power, right? But what you're saying is, I'm not hearing anything any other than, these people, they are so bad for the country. You were bad for the country where you were there as well. I'm speaking now as a citizen, as the beneficiary of your quote-unquote leadership, right? You did the same thing that these people were doing when you were in power. The only difference now is you are a disgruntled set of politicians that feel you need to find a way back in. And all the laws, all the amendments, they are never, look at the timetable for our elections, for example, right? We always start with the president first, then the material. That's the wrong order. Do you understand? What you need to do is start with local councillors, local government elections, governor, before you get to, once the president has been decided, just look at the drop in voter turnout after we're done with the presidential election. That should already tell you where the problem is. Once we know who did that is all over. That means, in fact, the state governors now already have to start dancing to that person's tune, because that's the guy at the top. Do you understand? And as we know, once that guy says left, everybody goes left. And in a case where now, for example, President Tinubu, the executive, and the legislature are married, then again, that Oga at the top now has absolute and almost unfettered control. Now, when you come to separation of powers, do we still have a democracy when one of the basic rocks, foundations of democracy is separation of power? So in a country where the two arms now dance to the tune of one individual, then we have already lost democracy as defined. In practice, we're doing something. In theory, we have already lost the vote. Yeah.
But let's talk about the issue of defection. What's your take on it when you see lots of governors defecting to a particular ruling party, and we know the numbers as we can see? What's your take? Do you think it's a right move, or we're heading towards a one-party democracy, or what's your own opinion when it comes to that, basically?
I heard this line in a movie, and the pilot of a ship used to say, "I'm a leaf on the wind, watch how I soar," right? I've taken that to mean I am a leaf who learns the currents of the wind to glide and soar, right? Whereas those politicians you just mentioned, they are leaves in the wind, but the wind is just blowing them anyhow. right? They don't have a direction. They don't have an ideology. Their own is just interest, self-interest. Where are my self-interests going to be served? Again, never about the people who you serve. Do you understand? Let me segue a little on this matter now, and I do not want to attack our minister and FCTO, Wike. Yes. I want to appeal to Wike. You are Abuja's #1 public servant as our minister, but yet in Abuja right now, because your mind from day one has been on River State and how you can control River State from here, Abuja has fallen into disarray. Why do I say this? I drive around on a motorcycle, right? And while most people drive in cars with their ACs up, Abuja has become a cesspool. Do you know what the definition of a cesspool is? Right? Abuja streets are just covered in pool water. I don't want to use the word, the S word, but it is pool water because our manholes are now overflowing with sewage.
But someone will tell you, sorry to interject, someone will say, with all of these constructions ongoing, the roads are being opened and all of the development in Abuja, someone might beg to differ on that.
You know, I'm not one of those people that clap for politicians when they are building roads and infrastructure. That is your basic job description. Do you understand? There is nothing for me to applaud there. So, for example, let's stick with His Excellency Wike. You came in, and your predecessor for 8 years under Buhari basically did nothing in Abuja, right? All he did was amass money in the FCT treasury, which you have now come in, and you're an action guy. We applaud you for being an action guy, right? You're doing what your predecessor should have done with the money that he kept, right? But again, there is nothing that is out of the box here. This is, like I said, that is your basic job description. Even if you don't show up to the office, that is what your office and your subordinates are supposed to do. Do you understand? So now that it's like when Buhari was first appointed, there was a sudden shift. Everybody started to ginger because they thought General Buhari has come back into power. They soon realized it is President Buhari, and there's a great difference between the two men or individuals, right? So everybody now relaxed, and we went back into this. So I applaud. I like that there's been infrastructural development, but now you're building roads, but our roads, like I said, are stinking of. Abuja has become a cesspool, and again, Guzape is where I see the most problem, as in these streets are flowing with this thing, and yet the minister actually lives in that proximity. I think Absokoro and Guzape are adjoining, adjacent to districts, right? Yeah. So his house, personally, I think he lives in Asokoro technically, but it's as good as being in Guzape. So I get it. You come out in your cars, you rolled up windows, and you're driving past what looks like water, but it's not water. And now, come to the citizens. Your delivery guys are riding past these things, and when they're riding, I see them lift their legs as they ride past. But the water is being kicked up onto those boxes. So, for example, you've ordered food, and your guy comes. Meanwhile, your food, thank you. Do you understand? So now, as citizens, are we supposed to really just keep quiet to that, or are we supposed to knock on the FCT's door and say, sir, I think you need to get in touch with whoever is running this thing and go and clean out these manholes because they are overflowing, and they are overflowing for a reason. Do you understand? So when, like I said at the top, people are there for their interests alone, they have tunnel vision for what has brought them there, not service to the people, then we now are the victims. We now end up with, you know what I mean? Like, this is the nation's capital. We have visitors, we have diplomats who are driving, and they're seeing these things. Like I keep saying, I'd love to be a fly on the wall on almost all these foreign embassies, because they must just, every single day, they just shake their heads and just wonder, can this my term finish quickly so that I can get out of here as soon as possible? Because this country is not working in any way whatsoever. Not working, because we are being led by directionless parties. Like I said earlier on, weak parties lead to transactional democracy.
I want to ask you a question about political parties as it stands right now. We already had quite a number of them, but not so long ago, sometime last year, some associations had come together to formally apply for party membership for, of course, to INEC for approval. We understand one of them now is the NDC, which we understand is the brainchild of former governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Seriake Dickson. Of course, himself a serving senator. We understand all else equal, a few more parties will likely spring up before the election day proper and things like that. Do we need more political parties, or do we need to even cut back, or maybe somewhere in between find the, if you like, the foresight to better manage the ones that we have today?
So again, let's go back to America. America, I think their population is about 350 million the last I checked. I don't know what it is today. We have a population local about over 200, right? So if in a country of 350 million, they have two major parties, what do we need these multiple parties for? We have multiple parties because we have people who have multiple interests, okay? If we were to narrow down our national interest into ideologies, again, like I said, ideology, we should either be a capitalist country following the line of America and their allies, or the West, should I say. We should be a socialist country in line with countries like, again, like I said, countries like Canada.
Scandinavian countries.
Yeah, they apply a mixture of both. You know what I mean? So their health care is socialist, but their governance in terms of whatever may be capitalist. Okay, so for me, like I said, I don't make any bones about where I belong. I am for socialism. And what is socialism? Socialism is less about the individual, it's about more about everybody, the collective. You understand? What is in the best interest of the collective? Hence, like I said, why internally I am a PRP member. Irrespective of which party, which vehicle I now choose to contest in 2027, I am in my heart of hearts a PRP member, because my leader, look at that. So look at, like I said, Aminu Kano has been dead a long time ago, but my ideology is of him. He is my leader. Do you understand? And he will forever be my leader. Now, we can say, let's say take Tinubu, President Tinubu, for example, right? President Tinubu from early 90s had a long-term plan. Like we talked about long-term, medium, and long-term, right? So we can say President Tinubu has a long-term plan, whether it was for him or whether it's for the country. Now, as a lawyer, I've had to look at the tax reforms recently. And again, I would now applaud President Tinubu, because in reviewing these reforms, I now see that he has a long-term vision for the taxation of Nigeria. So one, he has streamlined the various laws into one, and he now, I can see where we're going in terms of that. So for that, I'm like, yeah, I can see where that is. So I would now say there's some kind of long-term vision for the country. But in terms of every other thing, what we're saying, look at their slogan, renewed hope. So let's look at the words renewed hope. Same party, change, we need change. Now is renewed hope. What does that mean? What does that tell you? It means under 8 years of your party, people lost hope, and you're now trying to renew it.
But the APC guys say no, there was hope. It's just that we're renewing it. We're trying to scale up the hope.
And make
That's
it
how they
better.
explain that mantra. Right.
Well, again, that's what you can say that all you want at the top. I am down at the people level, and I'm hearing there is no hope. There is the horizon is very, very bleak. Do you understand? So what you have in Nigeria are those who are close to the corridors of power that are sycophants and will sing whatever Oga at the top wants them to sing, and then there's the reality on ground. There is a huge disconnect. You know how you say people in the villa is like they don't allow the president to read newspaper, because for some of the things that go on in terms of policy and whatever, you have to scratch your head and say, are these people really in touch with what is going on and realities on ground? Do you understand? So what they say about, everybody keeps mentioning the primary purpose of government is security and welfare. There's another very important clause in that chapter 2, which says government actions must be humane. Again, referring to the tax reforms, where it has removed a lot of Nigerians from the burden of tax. Do you understand? Again, I have to clap. That's where now I clap to a leader, because you have now said you are now working towards the betterment of your people. There are companies, there are huge that are doing huge turnovers. You can tax them and get the country to move forward without having to place an additional burden on the people. Now let's come down to local government, for example. You have AMAC running around now asking people to pay TV and radio license.
I hear that has been scrapped, so
I hope so.
Suspended.
I hope so, because again,
that was ridiculous to say.
Thank you. Where is the humanity in that? People are struggling to eat. you're now saying, because that, yes, it is there in the constitution or in your bylaws. Must you enforce it? That now comes to the person that, oh God, at the top, I'm a chairman. Did that make any sense to you to go and put additional burden on people? No. Like I said, you have to now question the people that are occupying those positions. Are they there for the people, or are they there for themselves?
Let's bring the court into this. Of course, you're a legal practitioner. What role does the court play when it comes to internal crisis, or when it comes to politics and all of that in Nigeria? What role do they basically play to give that balance, like you mentioned?
Well, the judiciary is usually tied. Their hands are usually tied. Okay. So, for example, they will always tell you in law school, the bench does not descend into the arena. You understand? So even when you see lawyers clearly heading in the wrong direction, you're restricted from stepping in and guiding him
or taking sides.
You understand? So if the parties cannot put their houses in order, we have no choice but to continue to receive petitions upon petitions. So the electoral process is more or less being decided in the courts because there is no internal democracy. Like I said, you have delegate manipulation, you have imposition of candidates, you have questionable candidates winning elections, and so on and so forth. So the courts, in my opinion, they have no choice but to deal with cases that are being filed in front of them. Do you understand? Now, the only question is, how independent are they? Remember, we talked about separation of powers earlier, right? So, again, one of the things that I would commend President Tinubu for is in ensuring that the judiciary is well endowed. You understand? So, judges are not hungry. Let's put it that way, right? But again, is that going to give you an independent judiciary, or is that going to give you, oh God, well done, thank you very much for giving me this thing. Now I feel inclined to decide my things in your favor, which is a Nigerian factor, by the way.
Yes, it is.
As a country, we are so materialistically driven that it is no longer about what is right or wrong, it's about who has the money. Whoever has the money, he can do and undo.
So loyalty has nothing to play in that?
Loyalty, again, is based on who has control of the party machinery. Do you understand? So unlike where the party has the power, so, for example, like I said in my manifesto, the party is at the top. Whoever is the president and his cabinet, you answer to the party. The minute you deviate from what we've sold to the public, we're removing you. It's that simple. Because again, we have to have that ideology, we have to have that direction. And once we take that direction, look at Dubai. In no time, they went from zero to hero. Do you understand? That is again, you want to say they're not democratic because they have a monarchy, but the monarchy has the people's interest at heart. They're not, I mean, like I watched a video of a Saudi minister, and the Saudi ministers are generally part of the royal family, right? And the criticism he was addressing was that they said there was a project that was done, and it was done for this amount of money, and the guy was very, not arrogant, but he was like, what's he concerned with that? The work was done. Do you understand? Forget that it was cost this much or whatever. The work was done, and that's all that should matter to people. Do you understand? So in Nigeria now, I keep saying, it's not like we can't afford to get this country set within a very short time. We just simply have people who would rather fill their own personal pockets and coffers than actually use the money for what it's meant for.
I want us to talk about independent candidacy or candidature, as case may be, because the last couple of years we've seen politicians or seen some sort of, advocates and activists like yourself who say, look, we can't sustain the status quo, these money-backed politics that we've been playing since 1999. It's time Nigeria got people who can stand up and say, look, I want to be president, and they don't necessarily need any form of political party or special purpose vehicle to accomplish their objective or their ambition, that sort of thing. In today's Nigeria, is that realistic, or is it just some sort of fantasy?
Again, we come back to what are the interests of those that can make that a reality. Those that can make that a reality are the Nigerian legislature, right? So, again, is it in their interest
to do that
or not? Do you understand? If we now say yes, then someone like, again, Peter Obi, who has a particular block, right, then now becomes a factor, right? If you have anybody, Kwankwaso, for example, now all of a sudden Kwankwaso now becomes a factor because he has a Kwankwasia movement. Do you understand? Whereas most of these politicians can't even win elections in their backyard, right? So that again doesn't now seem to be in the interest of the national legislature to implement such a shift in our politics. So it all boils down to that section 224, whether it should remain or whether it should be repealed or amended to allow for independent candidacy. Do you understand? But like I said, where the current system allows for Oga at the top to take control of a party machinery, the structure, the everything, then it's something that will never happen.
Let's talk about reforms now. What reforms do you think can actually improve party leadership when it comes to, I don't want to mention any political party, but in general?
You have to enforce first and foremost your own party constitution. So what is your constitution? What is your party all about? Do you understand? So again, like you said earlier on, everybody will claim they have an ideology. No, you have constitutions that even from look at how we mentioned privatization now. Something as clear as Section 16(1)(c) and Section 16(2)(c) clearly does not allow for privatization. But for 16 years, a party in power, PDP, completely violated that and seemed there was no repercussion. In fact, most people didn't even seem to understand that had happened. Like I told you, when I first saw that and I realized the clear violation, I started raising the issue with senior advocates of Nigeria, and they all had one thing to say: the Chapter 2 is non-justiciable. So for me, you have already just taken that box that the judiciary put you in, and irrespective of your title, senior advocate of Nigeria, you refuse to do what Gani Fawemi said to every lawyer: challenge it. Do you understand? And that challenge is where I'm now saying, well, I found a way to come out of that box. So, do you understand? And I am now saying no. In fact, it's simple. No subsidiary law can supersede the constitution. So whatever the NCP, National Council of Privatization Act, or the Bureau, the act that established the BPE, say, they are by their very establishment in violation of 16(1)(c) and 16(2)(c). Do you understand? And that in essence makes them void and makes every act that they took void. So if we were serious, right, that in itself already right now, someone in the judiciary, without me having to file the case, everybody should now wake up and say, oh, hang on, our national cake was shared. Do you understand? Why are we where we are? Because electricity, for example, right? Companies that did not have the capacity to handle this thing were giving these things, and see where we are. Take Nitel. Nitel, our national telecom company, was killed off and sold off to a briefcase company that obviously did not meet the requirements. And see where MTN now, see how much money South Africa is getting from MTN, right, as a private company operating in our own, whereas we allowed our own to die. Is that a forward-thinking country? Are we as a people sensible? We're not.
But again, let's circle back to our democratic process. Recently, we had these several debates about the Electoral Act, amendment bill, which of course has now been amended, real time, signed into law, and what have you. You are not just a lawyer; you are invested, I should say, in our political process. Well, what have been your concerns beyond the hula baloo around electronic transmission of results?
I'll just answer this very simply. You talk about electoral transmission of results, right? So you have digital on one end, right? But the starting point is what? Printing. What is that? Is that digital? Is there anything digital about that?
Well, that's for manual.
Do you understand? So there's already a conflict of direction right from there. It's either we're going to digitize these things, whereby I can sit down and just as I can comfortably do a bank transaction in my home, right, and I feel secure that the bank is not going to miss my money, right, then why in God's name in 2027 can we not have the ability to just say, well, I'm voting PDP, APC, whatever, from the comfort of my home.
But Barrister Edie, have we gotten to that? We've not gotten to that point.
Is it what's the billions that INEC is being given every single for
election? We have a lot of challenges when it comes to network and all of that. There was something about the e-transmission that we're talking about when it comes to election. Of course, that is the way forward. But have we gotten to that point yet, Barrister Edie?
My question is simple. Are we saying that the technology that would allow that to happen like this does not exist? Yes, it does.
Are we ready for it to
then
happen
so
like
that
this?
You've answered your question. Do we have the political will to make it happen or not? And the answer, you've answered your question, no, we do not. So the solution to our electoral problems are there. We have them, we just refuse to apply them because it is not in the best interest of the rigging factor of Nigerian politics to allow that to happen. We cannot be talking about thumb printing in today's age. You should be entering a booth and pressing a button, and that button it has the information that can be electronically. Where are we having problems now? You have people who are just simply printing to manipulate the elections. So these results that we're transmitting are results that somebody has now manipulated a ballot box snatching. They will now go into a corner and you just see people. You've seen the videos now. They're just printing, and then that is what you're going to transmit. You're not serious now. You're not being serious about the process at all.
How about issues around the money factor in our politics in Nigeria? I've spoken to even some members of these major political parties recently, and this one has told me that, look, money is now the front and center, so to speak, in terms of determining who clenches the ticket, whether it's House of Assembly, House of Reps, or governorship. This is even at the level of congresses and elective, convention and what have you. It is unrealistic, like Jim and I had talked about at the top of the program this morning, to extricate money as a factor altogether from our political process. But how can we de-emphasize? How can we demonetize?
I think that now brings me back to, let's circle back to emancipation of mental slavery. Do you understand? Like I said, Nigeria is a materialistic-centered country. Do you understand? Everything centers around who has money. And so again, the definition of a big man in Nigeria is by how many people feed under him. Do you understand? It isn't about so much, what does this big man actually do? How did he even become a big man? Let us look at his business. Does his business actually justify his status in society?
But Malaya says, if you didn't bother about the source of my poverty, why do you worry over the source of my wealth?
Yeah, he said
if you didn't bother about the source,
you didn't bother about the source of my poverty, why are you worried about the source of my wealth?
Well, again, that's a statement that comes from a man who lives in a country where the abnormal has become normal. Do you understand? If you said that somewhere else, or where they will backhand you. Do you understand? Because that statement in itself, right, is you are boasting about something that does not register as common sense. Do you understand? If nobody can question your source,
right, to trace it,
then that, like I said, that statement for me is a shocking statement to come out. And again, it can only be said in a country like Nigeria, where it's said and it stays. Do you understand? So you all saw the interview with Daniel Bwala, right, where he was asked about, so you see, again, even in our critics, right, there's no ideology. You're just a critic for being a critic until the right person comes calling and now you jump to him. So less than 4 years ago, you were complaining about bullion vans being seen at the current president's house. You were asked about that, and now all of a sudden you are trying to defend it. Do you understand? So money politics in Nigeria, unfortunately, is not even just politics. Everything, like I said, boils down to money. It's not about who is right and who is wrong. It's about the person that was wrong. Does he have money? Then you, my friend, just shut up and go and sit down in one corner, because nobody will see it your way. Because see the person that is paying the piper. So this is the person that's paying my bills. How do you want me to go and bite the hand that's feeding me? In this kind of economy, an impossibility.
But that is like the order of the day. It's a norm now. Even individuals, the ones that are the voiceless, I would say, actually see it as a norm when there is an election and all I need to do is sell my vote for 1,000, 2,000 and I am good. How do we change that orientation, that mindset you were talking about now? You said a lot of things that have actually opened my eyes also as a Nigerian, I would not lie. But how do we change that orientation? Bring back our mindset to the right path to understand what is actually going on, Barrister Idi?
Suffering. Unless you suffer enough to the point where your brain finally activates and you realize that that 2,000 naira that you're selling your vote for is not going to change your life, right? So, for example, now, the hunger that has hit people, I would hope that come 2027, you're not selling your vote for 2,000 naira. You're voting for, actually, again, not just like 2015, it's time for change. It is time to try something else because this, we have now had it for 12 years and there has been, it's just downwards. We've just been going downwards. Everything just, no price has come down. Everything is just going up. Do you understand? And there is no, like I said, the horizon is bleak. There is no hope. Do you understand? All this, you can sing renewed hope all you want, but the fact that I cannot feed my family, the fact that despite all my hard work and efforts, there is nowhere I can turn where there is relief. Do you understand? And the relief is what? Some palliatives that you come and share that really, if you can, when you think of things on a medium-term position, they are not changing anything. The only way to engage real change in this country is to look at the sectors that actually bring about change. Mining, agriculture. Do you understand? Pick those two things up. Stop giving me 7-point plans, 11-point plans, or whatever. Pick these two sectors and make them work. For example, my state, Yobe, I can comfortably tell you now that I'm seriously considering saying, you know what, Nigeria, calm down. I need to go and solve the problem of my state. And if I solve the problem of my state through agriculture, I actually solve the problem of the nation because I'm feeding the nation.
Don't forget insecurity is part of the problem there.
What brings about insecurity? Joblessness, right? A breakdown of the infrastructures, the institutions, right? Where you have idle minds, that's where the devil's playground is, right? So it's easy for somebody to come in and sell you an ideology that, you know, or what have you, or bring about insecurity. Like, for example, now take kidnapping and banditry in the Northwest, yes? That is a business. People have realized, oh, well, if I kidnap this person and I squeeze that button, the money will come in. Do you understand?
As they go, don't forget.
Do you see an end to that? That is a successful business venture, an industry. The success rate is so high that if you were to compare it to any other business, why would I go and kill myself doing hard work like this when I can just go and do that? Do you understand? The solution to that is engage people, give something for people to do. Do you understand? So if you're looking at Yobe State, for example, okay, you have the 6th largest state in the country. That's landmass. That is agricultural revolution. That is hunger being solved. Do you understand? Now you say insecurity and some religious connotation to that. Again, I think I mentioned it the last time when Americans wanted to put a visa ban on Kwankwaso. I'm like, whoever that guy in America that came up with that law, that guy's educational status needs to be questioned because you live in a federal country where the state can decide to do what it wants to do. And yet you have left your country where that applies to come to another country to say, oh, you cannot do that. I have to question your sanity or your educational status because I don't understand that. Do you understand? Other than, like I said, you're just pushing an agenda, irrespective of whether the agenda makes sense or not.
You know, I want to take us back a bit to the AMAC election that happened last month.
Area council election.
Area council election that happened. I want to just take us back, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Barrister Idi, because I will need you to predict something for me. You will think that with what is happening in Nigeria now, a lot of individuals, people, Nigerians, any slightest opportunity we have when it comes to making a choice, everyone will come out at their mass, will come out because we want this change to come, because we are preparing ourselves for 2027. But when you look at the area council election, it was nothing to write home about. A lot of individuals didn't even show up. People were there. What? They were not nonchalant when it comes to the election. Now, with this that has just happened, this is just a tip of the iceberg, Barrister Idi. Now, 2027 and everyone is talking about the change, what do you see? Do you think people are going to be nonchalant? Or people are going, it's the same old, or we are ready for change? We're just trying to gear ourselves. Because with what we saw last month, it's nothing to write home about.
I had the same view, and I spoke to someone, I won't mention the person's name, but he now said to me, no, don't use that as a litmus test for 2027 presidential election. Now, the point he was making was there was a nonchalance or protest voting or I think I not send. Now that I not send it boils down to a lack of understanding that the most important person to you as a citizen is your counselor. That is where governance begins for you as an individual,
Very
right?
true.
So, but again, because we have turned our democratic process upside down and put that presidential one that should come last on top, that's where now, so what the person was trying to say was those results were not indicative of what would actually happen in 2027. You understand? People just didn't feel the need to bother with this useless thing. Just carry go. When the real cocoa is going to happen, that is when you really see my hand. You understand? So why would I go and waste my time in the sun for a local government chairman, whatever? APC carry it. You understand? It's irrelevant. Wrong in your thinking. I think very wrong. But I can understand it. You understand? Because again, the system has been turned upside down to make sure that the only election that actually matters in the country is the presidential one. That's why I told you earlier on, once the presidential election is done, the gubernatorial one, you see an almost 50% drop in turnout because the election has already been won. Do you understand? The rest is now look at PDP as an opposition, for example. As a party, that party has more or less been decapitated. How many PDP governors do we still have now? Almost everybody has defected to APC.
Yeah.
So really, again, it boils down to the people have been mentally subdued, economically impoverished to the point where there is no hope in either your economic status changing anytime soon or the political machine, the political engine of the country being moved in your favor as a citizen. So really, what I find is, like I said, INEC tells you there's about 90-something million people registered to vote. But like I told you, in the last 3 elections, less than 30 million people actually come out to vote. And who are those 30 million people? They are in the rural areas, the local government areas, those people that sell their votes for 2,000 naira. Do you understand? I have spoken to many of, like I told you, my target audience aren't those 30 million. I dash those 30 million to PDP, APC, and Labour Party. I'm not interested in your 30 million votes. I am interested in the 60 million that are inactive but are registered. And inside, I've met a lot of people that don't even have their PVC votes. They are their cards. They are so against the system that they don't even bother to have a card. Remember, we have 200 and something million. Only 90 something are registered, right? So imagine the amount of people that fall into that category. But no problem, you stay where you are. At least those of you that actually went and got the card, you are the ones that I'm speaking to because we are twice the number that is being shared between these political parties.
But sometimes, Barrister, they might have the card, but yet they lack a lackadaisical attitude to come out and vote.
That's what I'm saying. That's where my strategy is. That's why I keep telling people, I'm not concerned that I don't have the money. I'm not concerned that I don't have the structure. The structure, Peter Obi showed us in 2023, that is people. If you have the votes, that's your structure. It's not about whether this party has been existing and how long it has been there. No. Peter Obi at least destroyed that myth in 2023 because he almost went on par with PDP. Do you understand? So if I can speak to that 60 million that is just sitting on the sidelines, they have the cards, they know what's right, but they just don't feel they can make an impact. No, wake up. Awaken movement says, arise. We are the key electorate of Nigeria. That's what that acronym actually stands for. Awaken. If we were to awaken to our power, we can effect the change, irrespective of the bullion vans that will come in, will show up during election time. They can bring them. We will look at you in the eye and we will beat you.
No, you know what, Barrister? Let me put you on the spot again, because you are a lawyer and I know you do well in answering this question. You know, last week, we had a little bit of issue, not really an issue, but my co-host and I, we were reviewing the papers and we saw what the statement ADC said, that they are hell-bent, not in those words, but in bringing down the APC.
ADC?
Yes, ADC to APC. So in my own view, I was saying, now I want to just, I will not tell you what I said, but should that be the focus in bringing down another political party? Shouldn't that focus be tilted towards making Nigeria better? What's your take on that statement when you hear a political party aiming at another political party and saying, our strategy is to cripple you completely and bring you down? What's your take on that when you hear such statement? When there are lots of pressing issues around.
Again, it boils down to, why are you a politician? Why are you in politics to begin with? Like I said, I have sat down and heard conversations, like, as a neutral party, you understand, between with people who would fall into that category or that party or whatever, that opposition, you understand? And the conversation isn't about policies, it isn't about the people, it's about, these people, we need to just get them out. Do you understand? And now, when you were in power, that's how they too were talking about you. They just needed to get you out. Do you understand? So it's about their interests. It is a committee of interests, not the people, not a committee of policies, ideology. If that conversation had been about ideology, about we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to implement this, and that issue of once you focus the conversation on that, the people will come to you, get the votes. Do you understand? But no. It's about how do we remove these people from power, and it's about, and to do that, it's about, again, how do we amass the money? How do we get the right people that can come into this new party and now form a powerful opposition? But this ADC that we're speaking about, as we know right now, there's already internal crisis in the party. They haven't even gone anywhere. There doesn't seem to be a clearly defined leadership within that party. When we talked about true leadership, do you understand?
We did.
Right? So in that party, we have former vice presidents, we have former governors, all of whom want to be the leader of that party. So again, what is your constitution? So if ADC now, for example, what is your ideology? What is your constitution? You're just another vehicle, like APC sprung up out of nowhere. You understand? There was ANPP, there was CPC, there was this, that. You understand? You can say they all formed a coalition that now became APC. But that's what I'm trying. That's the essence, that a party from nowhere can just spring up and take over an election in Nigeria, because there is no foundation of ideology for any one of you. You're just all just jumping from one place to another, finding which home, which vehicle will serve my interest, which party would allow me, that will either guarantee my slot. That's what we said earlier on now, that the power shakers, the movers and shakers of that party can say, this person, you've got this ticket. Do you understand? And it's more or less a guarantee sort of thing. Do you understand? So today, like I told you, I am a PRP person by inclination, but I may pick another party simply because the vehicle has more viability in terms of the next election than other than, but not because you have sold me on your ideology.
Now, do you think we're tilting towards a one-party system with all of these things that we're seeing, defections here and there? Do you think that's the focus as of now?
Tilting.
Yes,
tilting indicates we are moving. We are already there. It is already a one-party state.
But some people beg to differ.
Again, like I said, those people that beg to differ are sycophants who are already towing the line of that party that has become the one-party state. You understand? So when you now say, we're not, all the sycophants are defined as people who they only see one thing. It's not irrespective of what arguments you make, how much sense I make to you. It's like it's just a brick wall. It's not even entering the brain power that's here to even enter and come out the other end. It's not even, they've closed this ear. It's not even entering. It is hey. We're just saying that is it. We don't want to hear anything. Do you understand?
Well, is that the way to go there?
Of course not.
I want to expand on Jumai's question regarding this defection. When governors started defecting, the first theory to it in terms of the incentive or the motivation was to say that, look, well, these governors need to secure the bag, as I say, in terms of second term, re-election. But then we're seeing a bunch of governors who have no business standing for re-election because most of them are cycling out their second and, of course, their last term. So you're wondering, what exactly is the motive behind that sort of thing? When you could have stayed in your PDP or whatever other party where you belong and continued your political career or whatever it is you're doing. But we're seeing these governors move. The latest being the governor of the Florida State. A man many had sworn will not move an inch, in the words of my mom. But we're seeing all of that happen the last few days. We're hearing that Bala Mohammed is likely going to move this week. And then the last man standing at that point will be Sheyi Makinde for your state. And when all of this happens, the chance that Sheyi would move at some point, for many people, is only a matter of time, and that likelihood is high, they say. When you do your assessment as a Nigerian and someone who follows these developments, what are your thoughts? What do you think will be driving all of these?
Self-interest. You see the writing on the wall. This party has secured this election before we even enter 2027.
What's the
point?
What's the bargaining chip that the APC has that is working this magic that we're seeing? I mean, from your own assessment.
The number of states that have already gone in that direction, do you understand? That's why I said once you start the elections from the presidential, do you understand? And the president has already won, APC has technically won. Your own state right now is at risk because the machinery of the federal government is now going to bring all of its might down on less than 5 states. You understand? We've already secured the remaining. So all we have to now do is pump all the money. Remember, money politics. Pump all the money into that state. So what's if you were the governor, what would you do? Do you understand? Even if you were a governor who really had the interests of your people at heart. So you've done 4 years, you put things in place, and you're looking at, oh my God, I am one of like less than 5 governors left, right? And I'm looking at the machinery that's about to descend into my state. Police, soldiers, whatever, civil defense, all the players that need to ensure that the politics is going in one direction. Even if you had the people's interests at heart, you would jump and join that one so that at least you can possibly finish your 8 years and now say, let me retire to the retirement home of governors, the Senate. Do you understand? And then from there, just continue collecting my pension till the day I'm dead. So really, you can't, with the way the system is set up, it's not a wonder that is what is happening. The only question now is, are they doing it simply to just join the winning party, the one-party state, or are they doing it really as a way of actually securing the continuity of the work that they have begun? And based on the fact that most people aren't there for the people, that number of those, the less than 5 of them that are actually doing it for continuity is actually practically non-existent.
You know, some of these political parties are trying to re-strategize, coming back and to douse or to calm the internal crisis in their party. Do you think is the right step in the right direction? That reorientation to understand that, hey, conflict is not the way. Let's come together because we cannot be having internal crisis in our party and yet we want to rule Nigeria. So what's your take on that, trying to come together, trying to balance it all and disagree and at the same time come to agree?
Well, it just boils down to fix your house or pack your load and go back home. You understand? Like I said, the choices are very clear. So it's either you put your house in order. So let us come now to solution at the end of the day, right? The solution to all of this is you have to enforce your own party's constitution, irrespective of interest or whatever. When the rules are murky, like I said, conflict is inevitable. So there has to be internal party transparency, right? Where there is primaries, let the primaries be transparent and legitimate. You understand? Let there be no delegate manipulation. Let the people of the party feel that there is internal democracy. Like we said, you cannot have a party that does not have internal democracy talking about leading the country. Do you understand? From your house, if your house is not in order, why should I feel confident that when you get there, there's going to be harmony? That's why I said, look at China. as a country, right? There is absolute harmony. Look at Russia. There is absolute harmony. So when the world was going through the Cold War in the 60s and 70s, in the 60s, right? The Cold War was basically a doctrinal war between communism and capitalism, right? Now we have the benefit of hindsight, right? And hindsight shows that so let me ask you a question. Between America, China, and Russia, which countries look more stable today, both in terms of their politics and in terms of the economy? You answer that question for me.
I'll pick China.
There you go. Do you understand? So we now have the benefit of hindsight. There were people who were being arrested in America. I'm sorry, but there were people who were literally almost being arrested in America for being communists. Do you understand? Because it was that much of a fundamental shift. Do you understand? They were brainwashing their people into believing that capitalism is the way forward. Do you understand? The result of capitalism is things like what happened in 2008, that housing market collapse, which affected the whole world.
Yes, it did.
Do you understand? Credit crunch. Because why? Your system is a scam. Do you understand? It is faulty. These ones that your Hollywood movies have brainwashed the rest of the world into thinking this is the way forward. See how stable they are today. America apparently owes the most money to China. Do you understand? Yet they are going around the world now creating conflicts everywhere they go, right? But the ones that you painted as the big bad dogs, they are the quiet ones. They are the ones that are not firing. Which country has fired the nuclear weapon? America. They fired it once. They saw the damage. You're like, let's do it again. They did it twice. Yet you go around the world saying, oh, Iran, we don't want them to have nuclear weapons. Nuclear war, you are the only people that have fired this weapon, not once, twice. Do you understand? Yet you are the ones that want to now give us the moral high ground that no, we need to. Their national security somebody in the higher end in the intelligence sector resigned.
Yes,
and he made it clear. Just like Colin Powell, unlike Colin Powell that was forced to go and lie to the UN, which he now later came back. Thank you. That was the worst moment of his life. Because he trusted the system to have done their homework and he was fed lies. This guy, he's lost his wife to these kinds of fake conflicts and he's saying no. I cannot be a party to this. The rest of the Western world, the allies now, NATO, Trump is looking for their support and they're not giving it because of what you led us down this path before.
He said he doesn't need the support.
Why did you, the day before, why did you ask for the help? You asked for the help the day before. Then the next day when you saw that there was no, I don't want your help again. President Trump, you know what I mean?
I want us to begin to wrap up now for time. Let's look at INEC, for example. INEC, as part of his own remit or mandate, has a responsibility again, I'm trying to find the word, regulate political parties. At least we understand, for example, amongst other responsibility or engagements, INEC must by all means monitor or observe the primaries of political parties. INEC has to, as it were, read the riot acts to them and things like that. Incidentally, INEC has new leadership in place. We've seen just a handful of cycle elections here and there by way of test for the new chairman, Professor Amukwito. When you look at INEC today, given what you're seeing from several election cycles before now, do you see an INEC that will, as it were, put its best foot forward, do better by the people this time?
I think if you recall, my interviews here started with my issue on privatization.
Right.
If you recall, there's a letter from me to this new INEC chairman on his table right now to be fair and balanced, to apply the law across board, right? So one of INEC's main issues has been the deregistration of parties, right? So you've been deregistering parties for minor infractions, yes? But the two major parties, PDP, APC, they have been violating one of the most crucial laws in our constitution, that Privatization Act, right? And yet, you have not yet, as you put it, put your best foot forward. What I would have hoped was that without forcing me to actually take you to court, to enforce you to deregister PDP and APC, you should have done it to show us that you are a fair and balanced umpire. Do you understand? Like I keep saying, compare it to a football match. The referee has already allowed your opposition to enter the football field and scoring empty goal before even saying match can start. Is that a fair umpire in terms of INEC? Do you understand? So for me, there is no, as a Nigerian, as a politician, I'm not that confident in INEC's impartiality when it comes to being the enforcer of our electoral laws in the country. Just like we said earlier, whoever is Oga at the top, that's who everybody dances to. Who appoints the INEC chairman?
Of course, the president.
Thank you. Who appoints?
But we have alternatives to that method.
Again, are we being serious about changing our direction in terms of elections? Do you understand? If we are not, and again, it comes now back to the National Assembly, right? So there was a recent amendment to the Electoral Act. The first thing I called one of my friends to say was, no, actually, he called me and asked, what do you think about this? And I'm like, the fact that we're still doing elections of presidency first, right? We've lost the plot already from there. Do you understand? Because it is not about what's in the best interest of the people, it's about what's in the best interest of the ruling party, right? And not even just the ruling party, it's in all of their interests, because like I said, for me, there's no difference between all of them, the parties and the politicians that make up the parties, because they are all about us. And what works for you today, you want to leave it there because it will work for you tomorrow. Do you understand? It is not in any of their interest to turn the tables around and start this process from up this way up. Do you understand? I've seen cases where young men come from Yobe to come and meet me at home, and one of their stories I found was horrifying, was that a guy who won, I think, House of Assembly was intimidating this young man because up until the eve of the election, this guy was campaigning on PDP. Overnight, he woke up the next day and switched to APC and won. So this young boy has been going around the constituents just saying, wise up, see how the people just useless our mandates. Do you understand? And he's now being intimidated by that House of Assembly member. So understand that the rot isn't just from federal, isn't just from state government, even down to our houses of assembly. Our politicians feel that they're not there as public servants. They're there as Ogas at the top. Do you understand? So earlier on when I said I had to watch how I was speaking to Wiki, in reality, I'm supposed to bark at you and command you to go and fix up these sewers. But I have to tread carefully because, you understand? Because the system has made it that you feel you are the Oga. No. When you guys get to traffic jams, you're not supposed to switch on your sirens and your soldiers come down and clear road for you. No, we are the people that matter. Make sure that go out there and clear the road. Make sure that the traffic starts to move. Then you now pass. I remember there was a day I was with a Korean, and then I think it was Goodluck that was in power at the time. So you know how they stop and traffic now when the president is about to pass. The convoy that passed and the length of time that we were sitting as car after car after car after car was passing, the guy just said, that guy must be the most powerful man in the world, because even powerful countries don't have that length of convoy. Talking of a country that claims we don't have money, we need your aid. If they are the other country that's supposedly giving aid, would you really take you seriously? Do you understand? Look at every single politician, even down to councillor. Everybody has convoy. And look at the prices of petrol today. You see most of these cars empty. The backup cars that are passing. For what? Who are you? Why do you feel you need that kind of level of security? It's waste. Just from the cars that make up our convoys for all of our politicians in Nigeria. Just calculate the amount of petrol that we're burning. When in Congress, in America, probably a guy is riding to this thing on a bicycle. So are we not a mentally unstable country?
I want us to, lastly, now to tie it up, look at the state of opposition in Nigeria today. I know you have alluded to that extensively in the course of this conversation. You've talked about how that the money factor is buying people over, so to speak, from other parties into the APC, and it appears that trajectory is going to have a spillover into the election proper and what have you. Is there any hope that could change at some point in time? Because how do you say you practice democracy when there's little or no opposition? That's so you're not talking about theory and practice. So the theory is we have the things in place, but in practice, at least by name. Yeah, but by name. But in practice, they don't exist. So we don't. As far as I'm concerned, we are not practicing a democracy in Nigeria. You understand? We never have, because those players that are participants in the democratic process don't even understand what the principles of democracy are themselves. You understand? So we are being led by unlettered people, right, who have just by chance, by cronyism,
have found themselves in the corridors of power, and like we said earlier, the people, the power brokers, the ticket allocators, they give these tickets to people who are loyal to what? Not policy, not ideology, loyal to the person. So who is at the top? That's who my loyalty is to.
Quite an interesting reality for this democratic process. But that's why we're leaving the conversation. We'd like to say a big thank you to Barrister.
Thank you very much
for taking our time to share these very powerful thoughts with us on the program today. And that marks the end of Global Morning today. Just to remind you that the views of our guests are their opinions. And I'm Riyad Mofud. We're saying thank you again for watching.
And thank you so much to our guest, Barrister Edie, for being a part of the program again. And I am Jumai Manson. Have an amazing day ahead. And from we and I, we say bye-bye.